Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Another episode of Trash Talk. I'm TJ O'Connor. With me, as always, Damian the Wolverine Hill. Trash Talk is brought to you by our sponsors: Valhalla Combat Sports Incorporated, Ink Shrinks Tattoo, Origin Wellness CBD, Spartan Martial Arts, the Striking Institute, James Clark Sports Psychology, Hypnosis Therapy, the Fighters, and my mom. Damian, you seem to be in a very good mood, my friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing really good, dude. I'm actually just really high, and I can't stop laughing for random things that just keep popping up in my head. I mean, it's the effects of marijuana. Um, how are you doing tonight, sir? I mean, even though I don't care.
I'm doing well, fresh off the clock, but back on the clock. But I got my Friday remedy, so I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
And yes, speaking of doing all right, there's some the fan question of the day is and this actually came. Sorry, I'm coughing, you guys, but the question came after we posted today's video, which had to do with trash talk or different underestimated aspects of trash talk. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out as soon as this one is done.
Yeah.
So 64, I believe. Yeah, 64 it was. I know for a fact. I edited it and everything.
Watch them all.
Yeah, for real. But episode 65 is how would you react to being on the opposite side of trash talk, or being on the receiving end of really good stuff? Like, how do you rebuttal when somebody says something really good? Like, and the one that comes to mind off the top of the head, and we joke about it all the time. Like, anybody who's been on an episode of trash talk probably has heard this inside joke between the two of us, but it's when John Jones said, "Are you there, pussy?" to DC, and then DC kind of paused for a second and said, "Yeah, I'm here." Like, what? That is not how you respond to that.
That's 10-9. That's 10-9 Jones.
So how would you have responded to that particular comment?
If he asked me that, the only way to respond is you have to first address that you're not a pussy. I mean, you can't say those words, though. You can't just be like, "I'm not a pussy," because then you're instantly sounding like a pussy. Let's be real. But you got to hit him with something smooth, like, "John, I don't know if your brother's on the line or something, but DC's here, big dog, and now you got to talk to me." Something like that. You got to talk some shit back. I don't know if your mom's on the line, which is rude, but that story is before John's mom passed away, so it was applicable.
Hey, exactly. I was just gonna say that, so I'm glad you touched on it. But at the same, it's like that's the best thing he could have said.
Yeah, at least. I mean,
where he's like, DC is here, but there ain't no pussies over here. Yeah, like something like that. That's the best worst thing you could have said. But yeah, I'm here. Like what? Like honestly, if somebody would have said like, "You there, pussy?" I would have been like, "Hey, cameraman, I think this dude is talking to you because he definitely ain't talking to the real G." Like something like that. And honestly, that just came to my head just now. Like I don't know. Like I would have there's so many things that are quick with it, or at least called him a name back.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, at the least, just to save grace, just rather than saying "yeah," you pretend like your headset wasn't on and you didn't hear it. You just kind of sit there quietly, and then when they cue you in 5 seconds, like, "Oh yeah, I'm on the mic. What's going on?" And he might try to say it again, but at that point, it's whatever, because he already ran the joke once.
Okay, how about this one? This is the perfect scenario. Okay, so we talk about Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz when the commentator, whoever's interviewing, says, "Can you both count to 10 for us?" And then Conor says he can only count to 5, and then Nate just like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Fuck you. Like that was it. That was perfect. That's a rebuttal. That is like I can count to 10. That would have been horrible. He would have
Yeah.
lost that. That would have.
No, that's why Connor and Nate did such big business. And I'm not breaking any news. I'm not laying out the puzzle for no one that's ever seen it. But Connor would have these elaborate lines. He'd talk the best shit. And then Nate would respond. Like you said, he'd just lean in and be like, fuck you. And it was just, it was what needed to be said at that time. And I mean, and you have bad responses to Connor. Like, I mean, the infamous one, obviously, who the fuck is that guy? When he says it to Jeremy Stevens. No one remembers that Jeremy Stevens even tried to respond. That's how bad that line was. But he's sitting there and he goes, oh, you know who I am. No, worst thing to say right now. Worst thing to say is you know who I am.
Okay, so now that we're on a tangent of like bad trash talk in the UFC, one of the ones that reminds me of is and like honestly, I think of it. I do not know how I would have responded if I was Luke Rockhold when he was fighting Michael Bisping, and he says, "I know I can beat this guy. I see it. I believe I can beat this guy. I know." And then Michael Bisping interrupts him and says, "See, believe, achieve. You sound like the best self-help book ever written. Shut the fuck up." Yeah. And then he just like Luke Rockhold looked there shocked, like, you just said that to me, like, and honestly, I would have rebutted like angrily. Something would have been said, but even right now, like I don't know what I would have said. That was such a great fucking line at the perfect time too. The perfect time. I don't know. The only line that I feel like compares to it at the perfect time was Nick Diaz when he said, "Don't be scared, homie," and that was to KJ Noons, right?
I think it started with George St. Pierre, the whole "Don't Be Scared, Homie" campaign.
Started with no,
you're right. It was Strikeforce.
I know about Was it? I just don't know about the fighter. Was it KJ Noons?
Might have been Frank Shamrock.
No, because he fought. He had a dual fight. He
fought KJ Noons twice.
Yes, and he lost the first time, right?
By cut, yep.
Yep, and he asked for an immediate rematch inside the cage, and he told him, "Don't be scared, homie."
Dropping knowledge.
I'm like 99% sure, dude. Like I became a huge fan of Nick Diaz, and it's only because of Nate Diaz. Like I knew who Nate was before I knew who Nick was, and Nate talks about his brother all the time and put me on to Nick. And then I'm like, oh shit, he is the OG, And but no, I'm like 99% sure it was KJ Noons. But
I'm with you. I'm not even going to Google that. That's officially my knowledge moving forward. Put it on the books. But speaking of Diaz, that actually transitions perfectly into something I was thinking. Since we're going off on a tangent, like you said, some of like the best responses when good trash talk is talked, and it reminds me of that infamous press conference with Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre, where Nick's on fire. He's dropping some of the best Nick Diaz quotes you've ever heard. He's murdering this shit. And he goes off on a rant about, motherfucker, you ever had motherfucking soccer mom pull up on you and fucking pull a fucking gun on you, motherfucker? You ever had that? And like they're telling you you're a piece of shit? Like I'm just walking down the street. And like he goes off on this huge rant. And George just looks at him and goes, you think I'm afraid of you, man? You think you're crazy, man? And like as nonchalant as it says, are you crazy in your head sometimes? Like as silly as it sounds, it's perfect response placement, which led to us talking about it 9 years later.
That was honestly one of the funnest press conferences because George St. Pierre has spent his entire career trying to prove that he's the golden boy. Like he's a good guy. Like not necessarily above his emotions because he's never said that, you know what I mean? But he gave off that persona. Like when people said things to get him mad, it didn't actually make him mad. When people things to try and hurt, excuse me, sorry. When people try to say things to hurt his feelings, he tried to make it seem like it didn't hurt his feelings. when he was fighting somebody that he was intimidated by, he tried to make it seem like he was not intimidated by him. And that was his whole career, you know. And it's not necessarily that he made that by speaking on it, just the persona that he had, you know. That's, at least that's how I feel about it. That was my perception of GSP, you know. Like, I could be wrong, so people don't blow me up in the comments all like, oh, you're hating on GSP. You know, I'm not, you know. That's just how I felt about it. But one of the things is that he definitely played into the fact that people's trash talk didn't affect him. And he played into that for so long until what we talked about the last video, how the guys that did talk trash to him usually paid for it.
Yeah.
So it got into his head in a negative way towards, you know, but anyway, go watch the previous video. But anyway, he says that that he wanted to make it seem like the trash talk didn't affect him. You know what I mean? But when Nick is saying that he's a golden boy, he ain't never been through any struggles, things like that, he was like, no, I have been, and like had to like talk and like prove that to people. It's like, no, I actually do. I have a crazy place inside my head. You have no idea where I go inside my head sometimes. And it turned into some stuff like GSP trying to convince everybody that he's just as crazy as him. He's been through struggles too. And it's just like that. He got him to come out of character, I feel, just a little bit. But at the same time, the responses were so great. And I don't feel like GSP was lying at all. You know, it just came out of the character that he was trying to project.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the Nick Diaz fight is where he mentioned, he's like, I go into my dark place sometime. And, you know, he starts talking about his dark place in his head. And, you know, it's exactly what you talk about is Nick pissed him off so much. My favorite line, I guess I can't even say it because I already said my favorite line. But top lines from the thing is when Nick's telling him, you're fucking pampered the fuck up. He goes, I'd be fucking pampered too. On the hour, every fucking hour. New diaper, pampered up. And he's going off and it pissed him.
My bad. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Tommy Toll's impersonation, if you guys have a chance, go look up Tommy Toll's. What was the UFC of that one? Diaz
GSP. Google it.
Yeah, for real. Tommy Toll GSP. Nick Diaz.
Yeah, kills it. Some of my favorite content in the world. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know how we ended up going off on a huge rant about like UFC stuff. I mean, I can apply this stuff locally. I mean, just even putting you in the story. I mean, we've talked about this a million times, and you were there. But one of my favorite responses to I don't even know if it's trash talk, but it kind of was because, I mean, for those, especially those who have fought Damian, they might know that I might talk some shit. It just happened at that point in time, especially during those days. I was 21 years old. We were talking shit. It's what we did. Show's called Trash Talk. It's not news. I'm not breaking news.
Well, and then too, we talked casually, even in the corner, like,
yeah,
you know, like I can't really explain it. Like if there was a punch there, it's like, hey, yo, TJ, you know he's dropping his left hand, punch him.
Yeah,
pound him with that it's down. You know it's open. You know, and it's just it'd be something like that simple. And yeah,
you can see how someone could take it the wrong way because you say it so effortlessly, like you said. And so I remember just to place the event, even place the date, March 23, 2013, at the High Five in Burnsville. Damian Hill fighting Courtney Buck, and I remember it was I think this is probably second or third round later in the fight. But you take him down, and you're landing punches. He's hitting you back from the guard, and you started landing these elbows, like right to his belly button, like almost. Like I can't even explain it. Unorthodox stuff, but if you've seen Damian fight, it's very Damian Hill.
I was trying to take the wind out of him. I knew it wasn't going to finish him, but I knew, hopefully I was going to get that. And as soon as you hear that air come out of him, and I was like, okay, now it's my time to pounce. But I mean, it didn't happen, but
yeah. And so these guys are maybe 3-4 feet away from me in the corner. They're in the cage. And everybody, I say Courtney Buck, you already know the prerequisite. I mean, the guy's WEC veteran, fought everybody, tough as nails. And Damian lands one of these elbows to the stomach. And just yelled out, "Oh, he don't like that, Damian. He don't like that. Do it again." And in the middle of the fight, while Damian's attempting to hit him, he turns, looks in my direction. I don't know if he saw me, but he knew where I was at. It just goes, "I love that shit." And in the corner, while trying to maintain this, I laughed. I mean, might have been the funniest shit I've ever heard. To this day, if me and Damien are talking, you say something, just be like, "I love that shit." And it's just, I tip my hat to Mr. Buck for one of the greatest responses to trash talk in the whole world.
Dude, it was the perfect comeback in the moment, like in the fucking moment. Like, you have press conferences, maybe that's stressful and all that stuff. That's a different story, but like in the middle of the fight to respond to that was fucking amazing, because I heard TJ laugh when he started laughing, and then prompted a response where I was like, "You love that shit?" Or like I said, "Everybody love that shit," or something like that, right? As soon as he said it, and then as I'm saying that, he elbows me in my eye. Fuck you, TJ. It wasn't funny, dude.
It was funny.
It was kind of funny, but anyway, like that type of shit was pretty funny. And I guess another time was I can't remember who I was going against in this jiu-jitsu match, but I took them down. I had them in full mount, but they brought me up in a guillotine, and they had me locked up pretty tightly. And then Roberto is sitting there telling me the whole time, "Damien, you got to get your head out of there. Damien, get your head out." He says it about like 37 fucking times. And on the 37th time, I look at him and said, "What do you think I'm trying?" The entire crowd erupts in laughter. Even my opponent laughs. And then I pull my head out because I felt him loosen up while he was laughing. So hell to the motherfucking yeah on that one. But then Dylan Doty was talking shit to you, because just to bring up a fight of yours, actually, because leading up to your fight with him, I don't know exactly if you responded to him at all. I don't think you did, because I remember talking so much shit to him that he eventually backed out of the fight, and it was later on figured out my shit talk, like, it worked too good, worked way too good, but but eventually you guys matched up in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and that was pretty cool, because I actually got to corner you in that, and it was kind of the same scenario where he I don't know if he wrestled before. I'm pretty sure he did, or at least he trained with hard-nosed grapplers, but he had no takedown ability. And if he did, I mean, you were used to seeing takedowns from me, which were way more high level than what this turd brought. So even if it was heavyweight, I don't care. So anyhow, this dude Cage for pretty trying to just basically waste the whole clock. Excuse me. The jiu-jitsu match was in the cage, to the people that are listening. You know, I didn't state that earlier. But anyway, he just basically hugged him against the cage. But I remember as soon as you tapped hands with him, I'm like, he's gassed, TJ. And everybody started. And then, oh my God, dude, I feel like even though you were in the middle of a match, you were so aware of what was going on, because you were reacting to me and like almost giving me like the shut the fuck up, dude. Like, I know you're funny, but stop. What was going through your mind when I was saying what I was saying to him? Because I was talking shit from the corner, like that's all anybody could hear.
Yeah, I want to preface this by saying I didn't see any grappling ability, so I want to give him zero grappling ability. I will say that he might have been one of the strongest son of a bitches I've ever locked up with. So I'm sure he benched at least 350. I don't know how that stuff works. But so we tapped hands, and he just held down, bull rushed me into the cage. And I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to think what to do, and he's just holding me. And Damien, the whole time, he's gassed. It's funny. And I didn't mind because I'm just laughing. But just to give Roberto another shout out, same scenario. TJ, you got to move. TJ, you got to get out of there. And I'm like, I know. Like, I'm trying. Like, this guy is strong as shit. And for the life of me, maybe I just was just content sitting there. But then there was the overtime, and I think I tapped him out in like 30 seconds into overtime. So I mean, there was a distinct difference in as far as grappling skill. But for some reason, yeah, he just held me there for like 5 minutes, and you just told him how gassed you. I think you made him laugh once or twice because of the persistence.
I think you ended up getting a reversal right after I got him to laugh. Like, you laughed too. I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure he started laughing, and then because he was laughing, you laughed, and then he was still laughing. You were like, he loosened up, and you reversed him or whatever, and then you ended up winning the match. But that's what I'm going to tell my children and my grandchildren. So,
well, just you can tell your grandchildren and your children that, but that's 95% not what happened. The bell ended up ringing after the first 5 minutes, and there was 0 points scored because he was just holding me against the cage. And so we came out for, I think it was like a 3-minute overtime. We slapped hands, clinched. I snapped him down, took his back, and choked him out. Like I said, in retrospect, it might have been the easiest match I've ever had in the overtime, but for some reason I waited 5 minutes to do it. It was my warm-up. That's the story I'm telling my children and their children.
Well, okay. Well, that's the thing. Like, your adrenaline was pumping so hard when you went into that second round because I gave you such an amazing pep talk. You know, you didn't hear me, dude. I did not stop saying he was gassed the entire fight. So is it unplausible to believe that I didn't say he was gassed right when you touched hands, snapped him down, and then choked him out? Because that's what I remember. And that's, again, what I'm going to tell my children and my grandchildren. And honestly, every time I'm around Michael, I'm going to be telling him that, and he's going to know it. Like, I'm going to make sure I tell him my story more than you tell him yours.
I mean, to be fair, statistically speaking, if you said this once every 10 seconds, we're looking at around 30 times in the 5-minute match. And then we go 30 seconds into the overtime. We're looking at 30 and a half. So, I mean, to be fair, you probably said it right as I was snapping him down. And I will acknowledge when your future children ask me, is it true that my dad said he was tired as you outskilled him and made him tap after years and years of just shit talking? And I'll be like, man, go get me a beer.
Hey, that's gonna be my response to almost every question my fucking grandkids ask me. Shit.
Granddad, is it true that you fought a guy once? Like, yeah, whatever, motherfucker, give me a beer.
Hey, that was Golden Gloves.
You don't know shit about the Golden Glove. At some point in every man's life, once they hit about 45, 50, they just instantly revert back to the Golden Gloves at all points in time. And I'm going to stick to that. And I'm going to let everybody know right now, this is my recording. We'll watch the video in 20 years, God willing. We're still kicking around. But I'm going to start referring to everything I did in my youth as the Golden Gloves. Every MMA fight, every jiu-jitsu match, every competition I've ever taken part of is going to be referred to as Golden Gloves. And I'm going to tell the youngins that they don't know shit.
Especially about the Golden Glove.
Nothing about the Golden Gloves, motherfucker.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that kind of explains how we would respond to trash. We're usually the ones dishing it out.
I want to be the first one to apologize to the person that did ask that question, because I think we may have answered it at some point, but looking at this video being about 20-something minutes in, I can't guarantee we did.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure we did. And then we went off onto a bunch of examples of the. Well, we started off with examples of from the UFC just because that's what people would know. And then we went into examples of ourselves. So we used specifically how we would respond to it. Boom, we answered the question. Not F the fan, but you know what I mean? Like we killed that. We did it. We answered the question. Bars, subscribe to Trash Talk with Damon. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But before we signed off, I wanted us to give like a 1990s rap promo just to let the fans understand what this is coming through. So you need to understand what this is and what it isn't. This is trash talk. And I don't know what I'm getting at here, but if you Google those words and then you times that by 3 divided by the common denominator, you're going to realize that you shouldn't be a hoe and subscribe to Trash Talk below. Bars.